Hi, you're with Chandeep and Goodly once again, and in this video I'm going to speak about a new dashboard and a template that I've created which helps you track the invoices and the receivables that you collect from customers in a very effective manner. Now I have the dashboard in front of me, but before I explain to you anything about the dashboard, I want to explain to you the logic of the dashboard as simple as I can. So I'll take you back to a Excel file, which is where I'll explain you the logic of the dashboard real quick, and then we go ahead and take a look at the features of the dashboard, what I have here. We are in a very simple Excel file. In this Excel file, the first sheet that I have here is the invoices sheet. So you have very simple columns like invoice number, the date of the invoice, the customer to whom the invoice was issued, and the amount on the invoice. Really simple, nothing too complicated. Now the problem is the customer doesn't pay up against the invoice. The payments that you receive from the customers are lump sum payments, and you have to allocate those payments to the invoices that you have created. So in this payment received data, we have the customer name, we have the date of the payment, then when the payment was received, and we just have the received amount. Now you can take a look that we do not have the invoice number here. That means the $100 that we received from the customer was lump sum. Now the problem arises, let's say for example, if I ask you a question that at the end of the month of January, what is the status of the paid and unpaid invoices? What you'll have to do is you'll have to take this $100, take a look at all the invoices that were created in the month of January, allocate $100 to all those invoices using a FIFO method, first in first out method, and then find out that how many invoices are being paid for and how many invoices are still pending. Now this is easily done using the template that I have created. I want to show you a very small demo here. Now let's just go take a look at a very simple calculation here. So I'm going to change that to the month of Jan, and let's just take a look. This is customer A selected. Now since we just had one invoice for customer A and the invoice amount was 90, but the amount received from that customer was 100, you can see that the first invoice is settled and we have a tick against it. But since the customer overpaid, you can see that this is the total of all the invoices, which is 90 since we just had one invoice, but the amount received is 100 and we still have a negative balance. That means the customer overpaid for the month of January. Now let's just take a look at the month of Feb. Let's just see what happened in the month of Feb. So if I go to the invoices sheet, in the month of Feb, you can see that customer A again was delivered an invoice of $30. But if we take a look at the receipts data, customer A did not pay in the month of Feb, right? So let's just take a look at the model here. So if I now change that to the month of Feb, you will see that the first invoice was cleared. Obviously, the customer paid $100. But the customer paid $10 extra last month, and that $10 extra has been settled against the second invoice generated in the month of Feb. And $30 was the invoice amount. We settled $10 as a balance from the last month, and the balance against this invoice is still to be paid by the customer, which is $20. Simple as that. Now let's just take a look at the customer number B. Customer B, all invoices are cleared. You can see that total billings of customer B is $200. The receipts in the month of Feb and Jan were $200, so balance is absolutely null, zero. Now a further complexity could arise when the customer starts to pay lump sum, like the way we've been seeing it, and also against the invoice once in a while. That means that if I just go to my receipts, let's say for example, the customer paid $90 against invoice number 1, right? So now we have the invoice number, and sometimes the customer is paying against the invoice, sometimes the customer is not paying against the invoice. These are lump sum payments, but this payment is made against the invoice, right? Now let's just take a look at what happens. So I'm just going to go back to the model, right click, and I'll do a refresh to my pivot table, and let's just see what is happening right here. Of course, I have to select customer A here because we were talking about customer A. Now you can take a look. Since the customer paid against the invoice, and we have a table on the right hand side which has self-populated. So the two invoices are separate out. These are all the payments and the invoices that were general. And this is the table where you have a specific invoice and the amount was specific to that invoice raised. So invoice number 1 was on 1st of January. The amount was 90. We received 90 on the 1st of Jan. In case the customer is paying up in installments, let's say for example, I come here and I just only pay up $70 against the invoice number 1. Come here and then refresh this pivot table. Let's just take a look. Now obviously the amount was 90, but I have paid 70, so the invoice is still not clear. There's a balance of 20. Let's see if that shows up or not. Amount was 90, received was 70 on the 1st of Jan, and there is still balance pending. So the tick mark has gone. This invoice is still not clear. So everything which is paid against a specific invoice gets collected here. All the general invoices and the lump sum payments, they just get collected here. Now that is the dashboard all about. Now that you have an understanding of what the dashboard is going to do, why don't we actually take a look at the Power BI dashboard that I've created. It's a template. You input the data and the dashboard is going to be ready with your data and analysis. Let's just go take a look. All right, so we are taking a look at the dashboard now, and this dashboard is really simple, has just got two screens, the overview screen and the invoices detail screen. Let's just talk about the overview first. So on the left hand side, we have a company level analysis. This talks about the entire company, all the customers as a whole. And you can see that on the top we have the month of May selected. That means what we are seeing now is the status of all the dues and the receivables as on May 2018. So the total billings that we have done until this month is 760. The total receipts that we have received is 792. That means customers have overpaid than what we have billed. That's a good thing actually. The customers are actually keeping up spare balances that they can consume later. So we have a negative pending. Here's a small chart which talks about the balance pending from top 7 customers. That means that from this customer, $24,000 is still pending by the end of May 2018. And if you hover the mouse on top of that, it talks about the total billing and the balance pending. So you can see that we have billed 24,420 and the customer has paid nothing of that. Let's just take a look at the second customer. We have billed 22,915. The customer has paid 5,835 and 17,080 is still pending from the customer. At the bottom we have a small table. This table shows a couple of columns here. We have a date, the cumulative amount, that means day on day how did the billing increase. This is the running total of the amount received and the balance. So you can see that on the first we did a billing of 890 and we received nothing, so 890. Up till the second, that means the running total until the 2nd of Jan was 7,550. Received was nothing until this time, so the balance is complete. And so this actually tells you that okay, how the health of the company is doing, and that means what has been the total billing until the current date, what has been the amount received until the current date, and what has been the balance pending. And by the end of this table you will find that this is going to get negative because the customers have overpaid. So you can see that this turns blue. So on the right here we have the customer level analysis. That means we can analyze a specific customer and the details of how the customer has been billed and paid over a period of time. A customer Freak Shack has been selected, and you can see that until May 2018 we have billed a total of 39,845. We have received 34,335 and $5,510 is still pending from the customer. You can take a look, the chart here. The red line talks about the billings, cumulative billings. Blue line talks about the balance as on the current date. All right, let's just take a look at the table here. The table at the bottom talks about the date, the amount that you billed to the customer on the particular date. How much money have you received in terms of general receipts? Remember that we had two receipts. We had a general receipts and the invoice receipts. The customer can pay lump sum or the customer can pay against the invoice as well. So these are general receipts and the invoice receipts. Now after which we have 3 columns. This is the cumulative amount, the running total of the amount billed. So you can take a look. On the 2nd of Jan we had 2,620. We added 100 to that. Now the amount has become 2,720. So this is nothing but the running total of the amount column. The cumulative receipts is nothing but the running total of general and the invoice receipts. So this is nothing but the total amount, this is nothing but the total received, and this is nothing but the balance of that customer as on a particular date. And you can see that the same balance tallies up in the table as it tallies up in the card on the top. We have 39,845 as a total billed. We have 34,335 as the total received. The balance is nothing but 5,510. And if you take a look at the chart here, the chart gives you a quick summary of how the customer is been billed and how the customer has been paid. What you actually should have is that the red line should go up on the top. That means that you should bill the customer higher, but the blue line should go at the bottom because you also want to collect the amount of money from the customer. You can see that here by the end of May, the total balance is just 5,510. Now, if you change this dashboard to a particular customer, any other customer, let's say for example, Aura Navigations right here. Now you can see that since the customer did not pay anything, so the balance has been going up, which is not a very good thing. You might want to call this customer and ask for money, and that's it. And you can also change the month. Now, if I just select December 2018, it's going to show the entire year's trends. And Aura Navigation actually started to pay up, so the balance has come down drastically. Remember that this dashboard is an as-on date dashboard. That means when I select December 2018, all the visuals, the charts are going to update and show me the data up till that particular day. All right, let's move on to screen number 2, which is invoice details. Now this screen or this report is a further drill down of the overview sheet. Now here in this screen, I can take a look at invoice by invoice, which invoices have been paid for and which invoices are still due for payment. Now you can take a look. We have selected a customer called Sphere Cards here, and we are in the month of Jan 2008. In the month of Jan, we raised all these invoices, a total of 6,640. We did not receive any money from the customer, so everything is pending. We also did one more invoice of 2,625, and the customer decided to pay specifically against that particular invoice. All right, this table also shows you one additional thing, which is pending days, and you can see that if the invoice was raised on 1st of January, the pending days are 31, which is calculated as per the date selected in the slicer, not as of today. Now let's just take a look at in the month of Feb what happened. So I click on the month of Feb, and you can see all the invoices have been paid for. Why? Because the customer paid $10,670 lump sum, against which all the invoices have been settled for, including the invoices that have been raised in the month of Feb. And you can see that the customer has an overdue balance of $575. Nothing has been paid off here. You can see that none of the invoices are checked, so nothing has been paid off. The balance is in full. Let's just take a look at the month of Feb, what happened. So if I click on the month of March, let's just take a look at what happened. So more money received from the customer, and you can see the balance still went up by negative by 4,105. There is some balance here, so the set of balance is $200, which is shown up right here. In the month of April, we received some money. Against this invoice, we received some money, 2,625 received on the 7th of April, and the invoice balance is 0. So this invoice has been cleared, and you see a check mark here. Let's just maybe move on to the month of September. Let's see. Okay, fine. Now you can see since we have done more invoices and received less money, and you can see that we have an invoice pending. Although the invoice amount was 2,970, we had some money from the customer already with us, so we adjusted $760, and the balance amount is right here. The invoice is still not clear. That's the reason why you still see pending days and you don't see a check mark here. In the month of September, we had raised an invoice, and the invoice amount was 1,805, but the customer decided to pay in 2 installments, which is $1,662 and $143, totaling up to $1,805, and you can see both the instances of payments received here. And also once again here, this invoice was 1,040. We only have received $485 against the invoice, and the invoice is still pending for a balance of $555. And if we go to the month of November, you can see that in November the customer pays of $555, and the entire invoice amount is complete, and all the invoices are checked. That's all good. And once you kind of select any other customer from here, you can even type the name of the customer. You select any other customer, the report will refresh to that particular customer. All right, now that we've taken a look at the template, let's just go take a look at the data behind the template. All right, so here I am. I have a very simple Excel file which contains the data that is going in the template. And if you take a look at the bottom, we just have 3 sheets. We have invoice data, we have the receipts data, and we have the customers data. In the invoices data, we have a table. The table contains a couple of columns: date column, the invoice number, the customer ID, and the amount. Now there's nothing too complicated that I have to explain. Everybody understands what these columns means, but there's just one thing that you need to remember is that the invoice number should be unique in this entire column. So one row simply means one unique invoice, and you enter the details of the invoice, the date, the invoice number, the customer ID, and the amount, and this is good to go. I'm also going to talk about that why do I have customer and the customer ID in just about a while. Let's just go take a look at the receipts data first. All right, here I am on the receipts sheet, and you can see that we again have a couple of columns, nearly the same columns as we had it in the invoices. Now in the receipts, you can possibly have 2 different types. It means you can receive the money against a particular invoice, or you could receive the money in lump sum. If you're receiving the money against a particular invoice, we're going to write write the invoice number right here. And there are invoices at the bottom of this data where you have money received against a particular invoice, right? So there are a lot of them actually. The other method is that you just receive the lump sum. In that case, you're just going to leave this column absolutely blank, no space, nothing of that sort, just absolutely blank. You will write the date, you will write the amount received, and the customer name and the customer ID. Now here you are allowed to have duplicates, meaning you can see that on the 5th of January, we received two payments, one from Titanium and the other from Tiger Shadow. Tiger Shadow again, we received two payments back to back, one on 5th January and the other one on 6th January. Now the thing is, the Tiger Shadow could have paid us the amount on the same day as well. That means both of these amounts could have been on the 5th of January. Also, when you're writing the invoice number, again you can have duplicates. You can see that we have an invoice number here. On the 15th of January, Tiger Shadow paid 2460 as an amount against this invoice number. Now this invoice could have been possibly paid in two installments. Now the only thing that you have to make sure, let me just go take a look at this invoice, go find this invoice in the invoices sheet. So I'm going to come here. Now this invoice value was 2640 and this entire amount was paid in one shot on the 15th of January. Now the only thing that I have to remember is that the date of when you receive the payment cannot be before the invoice date. The second thing that I have to talk about is that you cannot receive more payment than the invoice amount. So the invoice amount was how much? It's 2460, but you cannot receive more money than what you billed the customer in the invoice value. Now I can definitely have two installments of this. This 2460 can come in 2, 3, 4, 5, as many installments as you wish, and against every single installments you will have the invoice number there. Until the time all of this matches to be 2460, the invoice is going to be shown as knocked off in that particular month, and that's about it. This is going to work absolutely fine. Whereas when the customer Tiger Shadow pays a lump sum amount of money, there can be instances where he ends up paying more money than what his actual of all the total bills is. So maybe the total of the bills is 5,000, but he ends up paying 5,500. That's totally okay. It's going to show up as a negative balance. And let's just take a look at the customer's data. Just two columns. We have the customer column and we have the customer ID column. Customer column is the name of the customer and the customer ID is the unique ID of the customer. Now since the customer name could be duplicated, that's the reason why we have a customer ID. Now these are the customer IDs that I have generated. If you haven't generated customer IDs, you will have to generate a unique customer ID for every customer. Write them down here and you are good to go. And you will see that's the reason why everywhere we have a customer ID, because we want to allocate the money to the customer who's paid it. Just make sure that whatever you're writing here in terms of the details of the customer, the same customer gets repeated right here. A different customer should not appear here. Also that applies to the invoice number. So in the same invoice number, if it is getting paid, should reflect in the receipts data. It should not have a space, it should not have a lowercase, uppercase. It should exactly be this same invoice number. Same is the case with the customer and the customer ID. The case and the text should again match. I'll just mention that both in the invoices and the receipts, if you want to add a couple of more details in terms of columns, you can do that. So you can add more columns here. It's not going to be a problem. The table will automatically expand. If you want to add more number of rows at the bottom, sure enough, you can do that. It's not going to be a problem. So is the case with the invoice. You want to add more columns here, you can do that. You want to add more columns in the receipts, you can do that. But what you should not do is you should not change the names of the existing columns. So I have called this column as a date. You should not call this anything else apart from date. Let the columns name be the same. They're columns that I have already used. All right, one last thing to remember is that all of these data sets have been converted into a table structure, and you can take a look that we have the design tab on the top, and here I have the name of the table. You should also not change the name of the table. Let this table name be invoices, because that's how Power BI is pulling the data in by the invoices table. And the second sheet we have receipts. So if I just take a look here, this is receipts, and the last sheet, which is customers. So this data is nothing but customers, and it's going to stay customers. So that's about it. Just be cautious when you enter the data. If the data entered is correct, the output is going to be correct. Once you purchase this template, what you will get is a secure login ID from which you can download the dashboard itself, the Power BI file, and you will also be able to download the data set which is behind this. So you will be able to write your own data there. There is also going to be a slide tutorial and a guide in order to how to set up the dashboard, how do you connect the dashboard to the backend data. And just in case if you need any customization or if you need me to build a dashboard for you from scratch, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll probably leave my email somewhere here on the video, and you can just write to me. If you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, please feel free to put them down in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to help you out. And thanks so much for sticking around. Thanks so much for watching this, and you take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.